All right, it's time for an extended prayer of confession here at Union Presbyterian Church. I want to preface my remarks by saying that I am a very good driver. I am. I'm like, if you drive down the highway and you see some white Nissan Altima in the right-hand lane going exactly the speed limit, that's me. You can wave as you go by, breaking the law. I know, I've seen you do it to me. I've never gotten a speeding ticket in my life. I am a careful driver. I look around me all the time. I see who's driving distractedly with their cell phone in their hand. I look to see if there's drunken drivers. I look at the ramp to see who's moving in. I pay attention to the landscape and think about the weather conditions. I look at the signs. I'm a good driver. I've never been in a serious accident in my life. I'm solid. That's my self-righteousness part there, which prefaces my confession. A few weeks ago, I was driving to Lowe's in Mankato to purchase more energy-efficient light bulbs. Because I'm a good guy. And I'm trying to figure out how to get from Highway 22 to Lowe's, right? Have you been there or not been there or been around there or through there? And you go down there on 22, then you take a left because it says detour, and then you go through the parking lot, and then you take a right. And then I didn't know what to do, and I thought, well, I know, I'll take a left to the east, and I'll go out a little bit, and I'll just find some country road. I'll take a right, and I'll go back around to find Lowe's. That turned out to be a dead end. I turned around. I'm driving back towards the west on some strange street, and I look ahead of me, and I see a sign that says, after an intersection, the sign says, dead end, and then the sign has a left arrow. And I'm driving, and I'm thinking to myself, dead end left arrow. Does that mean I can't go straight, but I can go left? Or does that mean I can only go left into the McDonald's? Or what does that mean exactly, dead end left arrow? And as I'm thinking these thoughts, I look up, and I'm in the middle of an intersection, and the light is red. Oops, right, exactly. And I'm driving a little slow, so I'm like slow-mo running a red light too, which just makes it all the worse, because I'm in there a long time. Slow enough that I decide that I can just turn left through the intersection, and as I'm turning left through the intersection, I look over my shoulder to my left, and I see not one, but two police cars there. Just sitting there, kind of enjoying a nice little green light for them. And I'm like, well, that's it. I don't even wait. I just pull myself over. I mean, what are you going to do, right? I mean, why drive half a mile and make them work harder for it? I've never been pulled over in my life. I drive by, I start pulling myself over. The second police car turns his lights on. In 10 seconds, he's behind me. I roll down my window. I turn the car off. I do all the things you're supposed to do. Now, I've never been pulled over before in my entire life. I don't really know how it goes, right? I'm kind of excited. Like, this is something kind of new for me, And the guy, the police officer, I'm feeling pretty good about this. I mean, I broke the law. I broke the law. Clearly entered the intersection on a red light. No excuses. It's black and white. And if he gives me a ticket, fine. I deserve it. No question. So the police officer approaches my car. And to my surprise, he is irate. He is irate. He is angry at me. And I won't go through the whole conversation, but the guy basically yells at me for a couple of minutes about being such a jerk as to go speeding around Mankato running red lights. And he wished that you guys would knock it off. As though I'm part of some club of people who like do this for fun, right? I'm like, yes, sir, yes, officer. I did I'm very polite the whole way through. And then I realized that I'm calm. Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm relaxed. I'm at peace. And that this officer, that he's angry. And so I realized it's my job to calm him down. So I do my best. I'm my politest. For whatever reason, he decides not to give me a ticket. I think maybe the jawboning was the sort of the compensation. I don't know if it was the end of his shift. I don't know. I have no idea why he didn't, but he didn't. He let me go. I went to Lowe's, and I bought my light bulbs, and I drove home safely and carefully. Now, I was thinking about this on the way home, and I was wondering why he was so angry with me. And I was thinking about some other events that have happened, some serious events that have happened in our country lately. Most notably, the incident in Ferguson, Missouri, and more recently, or at least coming to light more recently, an incident in St. Paul where some police may have wrongly arrested a man who was black for sitting in a chair which was perhaps a public chair, and eventually tasered this man for what seems to be no good reason. In both cases, you have something of a he said, or he said, she said kind of scenario where your perspective on what happened depends on who you listen to. And I, as a preacher, I'm hesitant to kind of wade into a debate about what happened. So I don't want to do that. But I want to highlight a couple things. And the first thing is, I think we have to recognize in these circumstances that people are stressed out. Take, for example, the police. Being a police officer must be a difficult job. Now, I imagine the reason that the police officer who stopped me was stressed is because he had probably been stopping people for running red lights and making illegal left turns and right turns and going too fast through that crazy construction area for some time because motorists were confused by the signs. And so he has probably spent weeks stopping people for stupid reasons, and he had probably just had it. And every time a police officer stops a car or stops a person, the officer doesn't know whether or not you're a good person or a bad person. The officer didn't know that I'm a pastor of a Presbyterian church, that I'm a calm, self-soothing kind of person. The officer didn't know that I don't have a gun in my glove compartment, that I'm not mentally ill, that I'm not on drugs. The officer doesn't know anything about me. And what we do know from watching the news is that occasionally people who are stopped for trivial reasons turn out to be killers who murder police officers. Police officers deal with people at their worst all day long for their job. I mean, imagine that your job was to deal with people when they're breaking the law all the time. Imagine what a cynical and jaded view of humanity that you would eventually develop, and how aggravated and defensive you would feel towards the general public after some time. Imagine how stressed you would eventually feel if this were your occupation. I have tremendous respect for police officers who are able to do this hour after hour, day after day, week after week, week after week, year after year, and maintain a sense of calmness and civility about themselves. It's a hard job. When people are stressed, people make dumb decisions. When people are stressed, people make dumb decisions. So we have to be empathetic to people who make dumb decisions. At the same time, we have to recognize, and I realize that I'm a straight, white, heterosexual, Protestant male preacher preaching to a congregation that is mostly white. And so I think we have to recognize, as people who don't really encounter the issue of racism very much in our personal lives, that people who are ethnic and racial minorities, in particular people who are African American, deal with a level of stress that we don't experience. Black people are under a degree of scrutiny that is different than the degree of scrutiny that follows us. When I go into a shopping mall, and if I'm kind of wandering around the men's department looking for some new white shirts to wear, people assume that I'm a customer looking to buy white shirts and that I'm not there to shoplift. Security guards don't follow me around in malls. But I have black friends who tell me personally, and these are like pastor friends, that when they go to the mall, security guards follow them around. If there's a teenage boy walking down the street who's white, who's walking down 3rd Street, we kind of assume that maybe he's walking down to the fishing pond or walking over to play softball with his friends. We don't think anything of it. But a lot of times, if there's a young black male walking down the street, we think, oh, he must be part of a gang. He must be up to some no good. Black people in particular in this country are under a degree of scrutiny, of observation, of economic stress that is just different, that is more extreme than what you and I experience. They are stressed in a way that is different than for us. And when people are stressed, people can make bad decisions. So I don't want to be a person who judges people. I want to be a person who empathizes with people. I want to be a person who understands that when people are stressed, people make erratic and irrational decisions, and people behave badly sometimes. And so when I think about this as a person of faith, I think to myself, this is how I approach it. And you can approach it in your own way. And there's merit to different approaches. But when I think about these kinds of issues, I think, how can I calm this situation down? What can I do as a person to empathize and de-escalate these kinds of situations? If I have a friend who's a police officer who feels attacked by the media, who feels scrutinized by the public, who doesn't understand their demands of their job, who feels that they're being called racist for things that are difficult situations, I can understand that. When I have black friends who feel that we live in a racist country that is discriminatory against them and continues to be so and ignores their claims and their concerns, I believe them. I believe them. I believe people when they tell me that they're stressed. We come to this text from Paul, and I just think he nails it. He just nails it. Love one another with mutual affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Bless those who persecute you. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Do not repay anyone evil for evil, but take thought for what is noble in the sight of all. If it is possible, so far as it depends on you, in other words, you have a choice how to respond to stressful situations. You as an individual have a choice about how to enter into these complicated and emotionally fraught discussions about the police and race in our country. But so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. We as a culture have some serious discussions that we need to have about appropriate policing and about how to treat one another as Americans and as human beings, and some continued difficult conversations about race. These conversations are, by their nature, aggravating. and difficult. They require a spiritual maturity and a faith in a peaceful God that can guide us through these conversations. Our faith in a God who loves us unconditionally can be helpful. I want to highlight, I mentioned briefly the situation of the arrest of the man in St. Paul, which came to light via YouTube and social media recently. I want to highlight a statement, the official statement made by the mayor of St. Paul, Norm Coleman, on this issue. He wrote, "I have also reached out to leadership in the African American community to discuss this incident. There will be a formal meeting on Monday with the NAACP, the African American Leadership Council, and the St. Paul Black Ministerial Alliance, and the leadership of the St. Paul Police Department. I hope we can have a candid conversation about this particular incident. But more importantly, I hope that we can build upon the long-standing relationships that exist and map out further work that we can do to continue to build trust between our community and the police." That's the kind of leadership that we need in our country. Leadership that takes seriously people's concerns, that brings people together at the table, which empathizes and seeks way to build trust and community. That's what I think we need in leadership, and that's what God requires for us as Christians.